Hello, Claire Simon. Thank you very much for making this film. It's really an incredible film, very moving, and it raises many questions about the nature of love and relationships, but also about the personality of Duras. And it's incredible because it's a conversation, but it's so evocative. And Duras does not really appear in the film. She only appears in archival footage, and yet she's constantly felt in the cracks in the floorboards or in the recurrent phone calls from another part of the house. How did you work on transcribing the conversation into a script and into a film? And did you listen to the recordings, or did you just focus on the book?
No, I only read the book and I copied it. I taped it to be really close to the interview, and I had the chance to talk to the sister of Jan Andrea, who actually was given the tapes, and she wrote word by word the content of the interview, and she offered me to listen to the tapes, and I refused. And I asked also Swan Arlo, who was going to play the role of Jan Andrea, if he wanted to listen to the tape, and he refused also, because we thought that it would it wouldn't be interesting to copy the voice and the feeling. I was really struck by the beauty of the words of this interview, and I felt it was very strong, very interesting, and that was it. It was the material to begin the film with.
And how did you? I mean, you know, there are many. Jan Andrea, so played by Swan Arlo, has many words to say, and Emmanuelle DeVos has much less words, and she has to act a lot with facial expressions. So, how did you work with them, the two actors, on the text and the direction?
Well, we read the text several times, and it was obvious they were very keen on playing together. It was the first time they met, and they were very interested to play together. And the idea for Emmanuelle DeVos was completely a role of listening, and to show that listening was not neutral, was not nothing, was not doing nothing, but it was in cinema, having on her face what the character would think, and how she would receive and visualize what she was told, and what she was trying to get out of him, more or less, and how she was completely visited by this story. Because this interview wasn't done, as we say in the beginning of the film, it wasn't done because she wanted to interview him. She was a famous journalist interviewer, Michel Manceau. This interview happened because he wanted to be interviewed, because he thought that it would help him to put words on what he was going through, and maybe, I think, having some putting down his thoughts to maybe write something.
Yeah, sorry.
And you said that Duras was all over, but we only saw her with archives. I would say, as this film is going to be shown in England, that my model was Stephen Frears when he did The Queen, because I admire very much the way he used the footage about Lady Di, and that she is the only person who is true, real in the film, and the rest of the prodigious actors that he directed, like Helen Mirren and everyone. But I thought that in that story of the young lover, the last lover of Marguerite Duras, it was impossible to have someone to play Duras, because she was the reality, because she was the reality for him, that she was an author, and And that was a very important point in his love. And so I decided to copy Stefan Fries.
Yeah, that's not a bad choice, but it's interesting because like 20 years ago, José Dayan made a fiction film about Duras and Andrea called Cet Amour-là with Jeanne Moreau in the role of Duras. And there have been a number of documentary films, including the one by Michel Porte that you referenced, and there is a clip of it in your film. But your film is really, you're really known for all the documentary films you've made. So it really feels like it's at the border between fiction and documentary. So there is this conversation that has been published, but I think it's just said as it was published. And there's also a lot of archival footage, of film footage from Duras's films, interviews with her, some readings, your own voice at the end, and then you evoke to the more intimate or violent side of their relationship through watercolors. So how did you make all these choices?
Because I think it's interesting to make films that haven't been done before. Otherwise, it's a bit useless to make a film if you think it's been done before. So I thought that this interview was telling a love story. And it was a very strong love story on the point of view of a man, which is quite rare, because it's very rare that men are talking about their love. And especially that it was a reverse situation, as we usually know, of a young woman being under the domination of a man, of a well-known man. And my theory was that it's because he was a man with a patriarchal culture that he could put words so easily, so well on that relation, because he was not brought up to be submissive. He was brought up to be a man, and so he felt very clearly everything that was that he felt, and the very difficult decisions in which he was thrown in. And like he said, how he accepted to be submissive, why, is something that he explains very well, I thought it was universal, that it went much farther than Marguerite Duras, especially. I like very much her books, but I'm not an addict. I mean, it's not that point of view. It's the fact. I felt it was universal, and I think there is no love story without someone saying, "But what is me? I'm so much in love. What is me? What is left of me in that story?" And I think that's why it's universal. So I thought that my idea was that the person who was making the film was the interviewer, that she was seeing the scenes that, she helped us seeing the scenes that he would evocate, and that it was the way we could sort of make a story, a film, a love story, like if it was from IKEA furniture, in kit, that it was in pieces, and that we would, as the viewer would see a film that was in pieces, but would tell a very, from my point of view, a very beautiful love story told by the person, in fact, who was listening. And we can see the effect that it does on her, and we can see that she is, how do you say, troublée, that
Troubled,
she's, troubled. Yeah, it's not exactly, yeah, that she's, and the thing is about the previous film about Yann Andrea and Marguerite Duras, Jeanne Moreau was wonderful, but he was completely wiped out by her greatness of Jeanne Moreau. And of course, the sexual part, the love part, was completely erased. And it's just in one scene at night, she says, maybe we should make love or something. It's off. You don't see anything. Or the text, the interview, doesn't say that at all. It says that it is a very strong sexual story. And this man who meets, he does the court as a middle-aged troubadour, you know, for during 6 years he's writing letters, and then finally he meets her, and then they meet and they have their story. And he says, I had never made love before. I mean, this is very strong. It's not, you know, it's not a little something in something more than it was. It was very, I think it was the center. And so I wanted to show that, and it was very difficult to think how to show it. And then I decided that it was her, Michel Manceau, who was possessed by what he said, and that she was seeing when she went to sleep all these scenes that he had referred to, and how to show Marguerite Duras making love with Yann Andrea, who was actually played by Swan Arlo. Drawings was the only way. It was, and it was, we did a lot of work with Judith Fragy, who is the painter, and to get that these scenes would be really erotic, would be maybe even a bit pornographic, but it was, the idea was that it was the I don't know, l'élan, that it had to be a movement, and it had to be the complete body, because if pornography is only about pieces of bodies, it's and this is those two characters, we can recognize them, and we see them making love. And I was that was my main aim, was to show that what he said, it was a sexual story. It was a love affair with a lot of sex, and it was not a grandmother with her grandson. It was, and I think this love is taboo. It's taboo only because the older person is a woman, and on the other side, you can see every day thousands of stories everywhere of men who have 30, 40 years or are 30, 40 years older than the woman they live with, they have sex with, and nobody cares. So I thought it was really important just to show what he said, and it was him who said that, it's not her. And he says it in the interview. And so I thought I felt it was very important, not only that, because I think the universal side of this story is that it's two persons who are wanting to have the best, most beautiful love story. And when you get close to perfection, you get close to evil in a way. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's really, when you watch the film, I mean, there is the love relationship, but it's the abuse is really quite troubling. I mean, it's really
yes.
an abusive relationship, and he doesn't seem to have much agency in it. And I mean, even though he says nobody has ever loved me like that, he really can't do anything. And I think it gets really strong in the last part where the film evokes the theme of homosexuality, and
yes.
and Duras is very damaged by the film, of course, but she just appears as so conservative and violent towards homosexuality. And you know, in the Malady of Death, in the book, she calls homosexuality, equates it to death. And Jan is a homosexual, or at least he identifies as a homosexual. So it's just, it also symbolizes the whole abusive relationship, that book and that part of the film. And and Duras refers to him with feminine, talks to him with feminine pronouns. So were you shocked by that part of the interview? Did you think that Duras would have been more open-minded? Or?
It was 82, yes, of course, but I think she was terribly jealous and possessive, and she was terribly in love. and she was against homosexuality just because she was in love with Jan Andrea, and that she didn't want him to desire. It's the title in French. You only desire me. You only want me. That's what she tells him. So it's more her jealousy, I think, that made her homophobic, because she was surrounded by a lot of gay musicians, artists, and before meeting Jan Andrea, I think she was not against homosexuality as she appears in that text. It's because she was so jealous, I think. But it's true that it's very shocking today to see how she uses for her own purpose, for her own love, a sort of theory, ideology, and everything. It's just because it's for her own personal interest. I mean, I feel like that. I feel she's, but she was at nearly at the summit of her glory, not completely, because it was when she wrote The Lover. Is that the English title? I don't know. In French, it's called L'Amant. And this was during the time she was with Jan, but she was already very, very well known. So it's also, she wanted to be the only one, the only writer, the only one to be loved. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I want that, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
no, but I mean, it's very childish.
Yeah, but I thought your choice of the music at the end was really interesting in relation to homosexuality or gay culture as a kind of reverse.
That's right. That's right. I wanted at the end that we would be in a nightclub for gay in the 80s, and that it was really, yeah.
Thank you very much. I just, yeah, I think it's a great film, and I hope people have enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope it'll be, some English people will be able to see it. It's, as I told you, it's my, I'm half English, so I'm very concerned by that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.